Oh, what are we talking about? Just
We're live, so whatever you want.
oh wow,
What is on the
there we're
docket
going.
We got a lot.
today?
Hey everybody, we're back. It's Modern Relics podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky.
I'm Paul.
It's Paul. You know Paul. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got Cash Money Patel.
Yeah,
He's
Cash
doing
Money Patel.
He's doing some stuff.
Confirmed.
Doge is finding a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
They're uncovering and unearthing. I'm sure you've got local stuff that's been popping off.
Oh yeah, lots of stuff up in the Great White North.
Yeah, there's tattoo stuff. You've been working on some tattoos here. We did a movie together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you guys can run the pod because I'm going to go get our storybook for Gen Z Bible stories because
Oh, yeah.
I'm always prepared to go live.
I gotta say, thank you
they'll
for the
still hear me
tattoo.
though.
Yeah, not a problem at all. So
Super
this week,
stoked.
we did a tattoo on Paul here, and we did one that both Angel and I actually share, and he got it too. We all kind of share a love for the band Alkaline Trio, and so Paul got himself an Alkaline Trio tattoo. And when did we do that? Wednesday?
Thursday or Friday?
A couple days ago.
I can't remember because it's been such a whirlwind of fun, man.
Today's Sunday, right?
Today's Sunday.
So I feel like it was Friday.
It's a
I think
special
it was
Sunday pod that normally we do on Tuesdays, but
We'll never do this again on Sunday. just joking, we might.
Depends on how the cards lay out.
But it was just, once again, Tuesday, I traveled in, got in late.
Yeah.
You know, had the boy with me, which Oliver's here with us. So that's other things that we got to do. We got to see two
Hockey games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm becoming a bit of a fan of hockey. I don't know what any of the lines and stuff mean on the ice. I have no idea what happens with the penalties and the scoring, but the violence and the action and
I'm still learning too.
it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty
Kraken has been our new team for Seattle, so that's been a blast to go to a few games with some of my friends. I'm still learning a lot about what just happened on the ice. I have no clue why are they going back over there and shooting from that place. So still figuring it out, but it's been jam-packed fun every
It
time I've
helps
gone.
if you have a child who plays in youth sports in that particular sport.
Yep.
Because prior to that, I didn't know anything either.
That's what I had a
even
question for
played
him last night.
roller hockey, you know.
Okay.
So, but I was a goalie and I didn't care about anything was going on out there.
Right.
My whole job was just to make sure it didn't get in the net. Right. So that's all the rules I ever learned for the one season I played. But
Keep it out there.
Yeah.
This is the wall.
It shouldn't surprise me because they're professionals, but the rate of speed at which the puck moves around, where it's like you're trying to follow like who has it and stuff, is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Even like the seats we had at the Golden Knights game where you could kind of see the entire ice or whatever.
Yeah.
There was times where I was like trying to figure out what's happening in the scrum and like the puck already went that way and there's a dude chasing it down. And I'm, it's over there. Like,
you start getting an eye for it.
Yeah.
Because there's like I used to be that way too, of like what's going on.
Right.
And now I can follow the puck everywhere.
Yep.
And so it's definitely something that over the course of time you acquire the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Got to track it a lot faster than you think. But you typically figure it out. There's a group of guys that could be there or it could be elsewhere.
Yeah.
One of the two.
So, but so we brought Oliver with us this time. So he's currently hanging out, doing his own thing. But
First hockey game, professional
hockey game, yeah. So we got to see two because on Wednesday night we went and saw the minor league team, the Silver Knights, which was a blast. That was, we had really great seats, and
We were like, what, third row or something? Third or fourth row, directly behind the home
I think it was
bench.
third row because there were only two seats in the video you showed me.
Yeah.
There were only two other seats in front
It
of
was
you before
insane.
the ice.
That was really cool.
That was pretty cool how close
and
you guys
I
were.
love minor league games because there's a lot of heart in there because they're all trying to prove something and they're all young, and so it's scrappy. And it's typically a lot of action because they're doing everything they can to boost their own stats so they can go up, you know. And so there's always a lot more action in minor league games than there is in pro games.
Like college football versus NFL.
Very similar.
They're trying a lot harder, doing a lot more risky moves.
But so the Silver Knights was fantastic, and then the Golden Knights, it was Oliver's first professional hockey game that we've ever seen.
That was your first NHL too?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I never had an opportunity prior, and I've seen pro basketball, I've seen pro football, I've seen pro baseball.
I've never seen pro basketball. That's one. Sonics left before I got a chance.
I got to see the Sacramento Kings one time.
That's cool.
So, and I couldn't be less interested in basketball when I went to go see it with some friends when I was like 14 or
It's
something
just
like that.
I'm going to the game with friends.
Yeah, so
Something to do.
right. But besides that, yeah, those are. This is the first time I've gotten to see a pro hockey game. So.
Yep. This is time number 2, I think.
So the last time you saw it was Kraken was playing. It was the opening season game with the Knights, and it was the Knights that just won the Stanley Cup. So
that was my first time ever seeing a pro hockey game.
It's a hell of a game to see because we get to see the whole ceremony for them winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And them showing off the Stanley Cup down on the ice. It
was pretty cool. I remember saying, like, this might be the closest I'll ever physically be to the Stanley Cup. Like, that's kind of cool because that's their Lombardi trophy for hockey. But yeah, it was rad.
Yeah.
It was super fun. Don't know that I would, like, really get into going to see the Knights all the time just because it's a pain in the ass to get down there and stuff.
It really was.
But the one in Green Valley or whatever, the Silver Knights, that would be fun to go to, especially if the tickets are
and
not
way
that
more
bad.
affordable, and you're just going to get the same amount of you're going to get more hockey out of it and less show. You know, like, don't get me wrong, the Golden Knights put on a fantastic show. Like, the ice
it was cool.
They did all sorts of holographic stuff on the ice, and like they've got all the crowd stuff that they do. They have a bunch of pre-game show stuff. They really put on a good show because why not? It's Vegas. Right?
Kraken does the same thing. They've got a projector.
Yeah.
They show a huge Kraken on the entire ice rink coming out. It's a whole production to go to a game, and the arena isn't as steep as it is as T-Mobile to see the fight game, because that is a steep bowl.
Oh, dude, I felt
it's
like
really steep.
If I sneezed, I was gonna
fall over.
Yeah, you stand up and you're like, I kind of feel like I have to take a step back. The arena for the Climate Pledge Arena, it's not as steep, and they've got some pretty cushy seats.
That name.
Right.
Yeah, it was like, no.
Yeah.
That's the Key Arena.
It's the Key Arena. No, for real.
Yeah.
The Key Arena is very comfy seats, especially if you're in the Alaskan lounge side. I think it's the American Express side. They've got some pretty cush
Tell you
seats.
what. Well, let's all agree right here that we will, for the hockey, we'll call it the Key Arena.
Oh, hell yeah.
But when they're using it for the WNBA, it could be the Climate
Pledge Arena.
Climate Pledge Arena. I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll sign up for that.
Isn't that where the Storm plays too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they made it big enough for
That's what they're called, right? The Storm.
the Storm, Seattle Storm. It's the only basketball team that we have. Waiting for Sonics to come back, but
Yeah.
oh well.
So
I'll
the
probably be
NBA
gone by the time.
The NBA folks think that the next 2 expansion teams are going to be in Las Vegas and Seattle.
Yeah.
That's what they're called, right?
Yeah, I'm just making sure we're live. So that would mean that Seattle would be required to build an NBA arena.
Because the Climate Pledge for basketball, Key Arena is not big enough for a basketball team.
Yeah,
from what I've been told.
It's not big enough, and it doesn't have whatever their minimum standard requirements are to have a professional stadium for the NBA's new rules.
Right.
And I was saying earlier, I think probably to you, but like if you've seen a Nuggets game in the Pepsi Center versus a Sonics game in Key Arena, you'd be like, oh, it's like going from a Motel 6 to Taj Mahal. Like it's really different. So
I saw a lot of shows at the old Key Arena, so I can picture something better because it's just a huge step up from the remodel that they've done just from the previous iteration. But
I think I saw a comedy show there, and I took Dan Reyes to wrestling there. Cool. Like we went to see the WWE whatever, and then most of the time that they've had stuff was like Lego's Brick Con or something that you could walk around. They turn it into like a forum or something like that. But it's a better multi-purpose, really big community center than it is like an NBA arena, in my opinion. So
the audio wasn't great as Key Arena. I mean, I saw some amazing bands there. I got to see Muse, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Metallica. And then I know I'm missing like 3 or 4 others that I saw there, but I saw some really big bands there.
Nice.
But the audio wasn't, the show itself was spectacular. Like the Muse production, they had pyramids coming down out of the ceiling and up out of the ground with all kinds of stuff on it. So those were hella shows for Key Arena especially, but the the audio sucked. Acoustics were not the best thing in that building. Haven't seen a show in the new one, so it'd be interesting to hear how that sounds. But
so let's talk about Doge for a second.
dude, I can't keep track.
Like,
There's just so much going on.
they have a
all the time.
website now, doge.gov.
Yeah.
I've been trying to follow on that. Yeah.
It's very hard to follow because they update it so frequently
Yeah.
that by the time you actually start to dispense the information that you're finding out, it's already changed because there's already more coming out.
Yeah.
And
Well, so there's a headline with a hyperlink on it.
yeah.
And I think that probably updates with their balance sheet on the homepage now, so you don't have to like hit F5 to refresh kind of thing. But
Gotcha.
they're saying their estimated savings at the moment are $55 billion. That's a combination, this is right from the website, of fraud, detection, deletion, contract lease cancellations, contract lease renegotiations, asset sales, grant cancellations, workforce reductions, programmatic changes, and regulatory savings.
Yeah.
We're going to upload all of this into a digestible and fully transparent manner with clear assumptions, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff. Then, because it's the weekend, it says the last update was February, 17th? This will initially be updated twice per week. Over time, the website will improve. And then it'll move to real time once they can configure it that way. So the top 10 agencies' total contract savings. You guys want me to go from 10 to 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So number 10, housing
This
and
is coming
urban
from
development.
The House of Autistic Wizards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So wall of receipts is fun. But top 10 agencies, total contract savings. Number 10, housing and urban development. Number 9, the EPA.
I'm already.
Yeah. The Environmental
there's a
Protection Agency is the 9th
I'm glad
of
there's
10.
a table blocking my crotch region right now. I'm getting a boner.
In total,
You literally just said the EPA right out of the gate.
Didn't hit the table.
that's number
yet.
9.
Dude.
We're going to top, but lowest to highest.
Lowest to
right?
highest right
Okay.
now. Right?
But
So
I mean,
they're in the top
it's in the
10.
top 10.
That's
Top
pretty
10?
good.
I mean, EPA in the top 10. Thank you. Get rid of them. Anyway, go.
Number 8, commerce. The Department of Commerce.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number
Chop.
7, General Services Administration. I can't think of a more benign money sink than a department, an
Of
agency,
generality.
a federal agency called the General Services Administration.
Department of Redundancy Department.
Yeah.
Number 6, DHS, Homeland Security.
Yeah. Should have never been
Get
created.
them the fuck out of the airport. Should all be
Never
happy.
been created.
Yeah, I agree. Number 5, USDA, the Department of Agriculture, is the 5th highest money sink as far as contract savings for
Now,
agencies.
let's pause here because the USDA to me is a federal organization that puts more hoops and more troubles for agriculture, growing, farming, producing animal, all of that stuff, much like any other federal agency that basically just puts you can't do that until you give us an enormous amount of money over and over again. So people look at this as a good thing, the Department of Agriculture. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
It's hurts the smaller person, the smaller
Absolutely.
producers.
Right.
They
The
can't jump
reason
through
why
the
we
same
have
hoops.
Monsanto's,
Right.
the reason why we have these megacorp agriculture,
There is a certain line where there's some of the stuff that it's treated by the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They administrate. They take care of a certain part of that, but then there's a crossover where the USDA takes care of some stuff too.
Right.
But both sides, both FDA and USDA, have their issues with hurting the small people and letting the big people who can just pay their way through lobbying get through things. But
Yeah.
that's a whole
I think
podcast in
this
its own.
might start opening up the farming, and what I'm getting at is that the chicken and egg shortage that we've been having, this might be the thing that helps alleviate that a bit. So.
Rather than kill the chickens, just put them in a coop and flatten the curve for a
Yes.
couple of weeks.
Give them
maybe a
masks.
month,
That'll help.
Maybe a couple of years.
What is it? Social distance. Oliver says social distancing. Two chickens.
2,
apart.
3 chickens apart.
Yeah.
That'll
He's a
solve it.
little genius, that Oliver.
So Health and Human Services comes in at number 4.
Yeah.
What do they even do? Health and Human Services?
I don't know.
Where's the overlap with the FDA and
HHS?
HHS. Yep, that's number 4. Number 3, Office of Personnel Management. That's a federal agency with contract savings. Number 2, the Department of Education.
Cha-ching!
The number 2 total contract savings. And the number 1, in every single category that we could go through, it hits number 1 in all these, is USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's interesting because I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Rogan and some other dude, and I'm sure the dude is well-versed in everything, but he didn't stop talking for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. I watched his whole.
Mike Pence, yeah.
He's been on there a few times.
Really hard to listen to, but the narrative was essentially like, if the CIA can't do it, give it to the USAID, because...
It started with the church investigation about the heart attack gun that the CIA was making.
Yeah, like the idea is that there's oversight to the CIA, but there's not to the USAID, so they would just basically use them as a funnel to fund whatever gross stuff that they didn't want on their books, which is got to be pretty bad if it's the CIA doing that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, but that's the number 1 spot in contract savings as a percent of budget, on and on and on. They do have total contract values, but they open their own separate files and stuff, including the real estate pieces and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, first question, where do we want to see the most amount of savings, and what do we do with that money? Because there's a lot of conversation now going around about what is DOGE going to do with this funds, and Trump kind of floated out there that a piece of that should come back to the taxpayer, which I agree with, because that's where it came from.
Right.
But ideally, we would want the overhead for the government to take, and instead of put in their pocket, put onto the national debt.
Right.
One would imagine.
And that's where I was going to go with it, is that I think that I don't care if I see a dime at all until we knock down the national debt.
I would agree with that.
After we knock down the national debt, then start giving that money back to us.
You're right.
You know, as the money that belongs to us.
But pay down the debt, man. My God.
Yeah, that's the only way we're getting out of this.
Yeah.
You know, we can trim all the fat we want, but if we're not actually paying off the national debt, it doesn't really matter.
No.
So that's kind of the point, is we need to be able to go all the way and pay off the national debt. So that way we're at ground zero again. We're no longer beholden to the Fed. We can start barking orders at them or eliminate them entirely because we don't need them anymore, because that's why we're in debt. And so bring Ron Paul. Please bring Ron Paul in to audit the Fed. But
I've said for years, like long before we started this podcast, that every Christmas, my Christmas wish was that the IRS would audit the Federal Reserve, which is no more federal to me than FedEx. You know what I mean?
It's not federal and it's not a reserve. Wait, what?
Yeah. So it's like, I would love them to get audited as well. But I was really hoping that the number 1, because I didn't know much about USAID until maybe 3 weeks ago. Like, I knew it was a thing.
Really.
I knew it existed.
I heard a lot about it from a lot of the podcasts that I've watched on Joe Rogan and some of those other people talking about where the money's hidden and who's funding all this stuff, and that would always pop up as so and so is funded through USAID.
Larson says they need to revamp the election process too.
That's a big one.
It's true.
Yep.
I think I really wanted to see it, at least a transparent list of where this would come from with the Department of Education for sure.
Yeah.
Like that and agriculture both.
Did we even get a Secretary of Education? Did he even appoint anybody?
I don't know.
Because
if he's getting rid of it, then
that's kind of here's the thing, because we're about to talk about Kash Patel here,
right?
Yeah.
He just also not only got sworn in as the head of the FBI.
He did. It was.
No, he did.
No. Hold. He did appoint Edie Sec. It was. Okay. It was Vince McMahon's wife, wasn't it?
Oh, I think so. She hasn't been. I don't think she.
I'm going to look right now.
Sworn in or anything, but that's who he said he was going to appoint.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I think much like when we did our many episodes ago, we did our Dream Team cabinets.
Yeah, I remember that episode. That was a good one.
Halfway through, or like basically all the way through those cabinets, we said, if they're not going to just plain and simply eliminate this thing, this is who I'd put in charge of it.
It's crazy how you guys called that if they don't eliminate, and then here they are cutting a lot of this stuff.
Associated Press 3 days ago said Senate committee advances ex-wrestling CEO Linda McMahon as Trump's nominee for education.
She just didn't get the media play.
Gotcha.
So, which is really wild that they weren't like screaming about that.
That's like one of the more salacious names to be like, oh my God, because events and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so go on. Sorry.
No one said anything though.
The fact is I think, we just found out that Kash Patel with the FBI is also, they just
ATF.
they gave him the ATF too. So
that's a huge win.
That's a huge win, but also I think what they're doing is they're giving it to the people who are just going to eliminate the programs entirely.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, is what I want. Yep. So, Department of Education, gone.
Surely the ATF.
ATF.
Yeah. Surely the ATF.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, how hard they're going to use the assets within that organization to, fight the border wall stuff, right? And all the ICE support and all the deportations and stuff like that. But that's a piece that, if it's abolished, I would love to see all of the money. I would love Doge to put that on the side on, like, okay.
Especially if it's already been spent, it's already a chunk of change that they've already printed the money for. Just
exactly right. And be like, now this is stuff that we can both count as a savings and also potentially use these funds to help pay off the national debt as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So I agree.
But it is brutal, the job market right now, because public sector is getting bled dry, and there are a lot of private companies that are laying folks off too, including where I work at Redacted, which is coming next week, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, then we were just at Advanced Auto Parts.
Yeah, we went to Advanced Auto Parts today to get stuff for an oil change, and all the shelves were empty. And they said everything in the store is $5 or less.
And you can buy the gondolas. And you can buy the shelving.
The shelving that is empty. And this store is not even 2 years old. And they're like, yeah, Advanced Auto Part is closing. They said 700 or something locations on the West Coast.
Yep.
But CarQuest is basically closing up shop. We're looking for a buyer.
Wow.
Pretty much right in front of all the tariff stuff that would pop up for because they get all these things from overseas, all the oil filters and oil jugs and all that stuff.
But you and I both discussed that there would be some
short-term extreme pain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If the long-term innovation arm is rebuilt in America, great. But some of the bigger ones are just going to have to put exceptions on for the time being because it has to come from there.
Yeah.
But it's gonna cause a wild rise in cost
prices
of stuff
across the board. Absolutely.
Yep.
I think it's a necessary evil to get us off of sucking the teat of manufacturing in China. We should have never sent it over there. If any place, it should have been sent down to Mexico back in the 90s instead of wanting to turn over our manufacturing for cheaper goods. That was the whole process of.
Well, if it stayed in North America, you could at least protect some of it with NAFTA. But
yes, absolutely. Which was 96. They created that. So.
So I wanted the ED to be gutted and thrown out for everyone to see. But where would both of you guys like to have seen the most amount of money come from a Doge audit, more or less?
I really want to know
federal spending perspective.
Federal spending. I really want to know what's in Fort Knox. Give us the nitty gritty. Give us the real truth, the harsh truth.
Yeah, I want to know.
Don't BS us anymore.
I want them to kick in the door of the Fed. I want them to kick in the door of Fort Knox. I want them to.
The Fed, the Federal Reserve. Yeah, me too.
Yep.
The IRS. They're already getting slashed pretty heavy at the IRS, but I want more.
Yeah.
I want that thing to be basically.
Well, here in the last administration was going to hire hundreds of IRS people.
96,000.
Yeah. 96,000.
I think it was 96 was one of the statistics I saw.
One for every thought I've ever had.
I saw somewhere between 87 and 96,000.
Yeah.
So, and they were arming them.
Yeah.
And buying pallets and pallets and pallets of ammunition for people who don't know how to use it properly.
Ammunition?
Yeah.
Firearms?
Yeah.
For IRS?
Yeah. So,
wild.
I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't seem
logistically correct.
Your taxes, revenue service. What are you doing with weapons?
Right.
You're going to be kicking down doors and asking me for the money.
Trump's been floating the idea of either firing them or giving them a job down.
Hey, Cynthia, good to see you too.
Yeah.
Border security.
Enlist them down at the.
Go ahead. If you want to keep your job, you get to go stand at the wall.
Well, were they getting the pallets of ammo and weapons before Trump?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Yeah.
No, the last administration was framing that up to bolster a whole bunch of IRS folks, and they were really pumping money into FEMA as well.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. If
That's
you look at how FEMA gets deployed, that was interesting.
I just watched a snippet from a guy down in California about FEMA subcontracting with this company called Anvil, and they get charged per pound, and they never do a good job. Instead of hiring the local people in California, the local companies that could do the demolition of all the fire damage, instead of hiring the local people and keeping the money in there, they're doing a huge government contract with this company called Anvil, and they get paid by the pound. And the guy was saying that they'll scrape extra dirt off the top that winds up having to be backfilled afterwards when they go to rebuild the house, but they'll even scrape the dirt off the topsoil just to get the extra money. So that's go off on sidetracks all the time on this stuff.
Vault. Judy Larson says vault. Hopefully looking into Fort Knox won't be like Gerardo's special on Al Capone's vault.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
I have
also
a feeling it's going to be, though.
I think it will. Like, I'm kind of
See
interested.
the meme of everybody at Fort Knox right now? It's bricks and
They're spray painting.
gold spray paint.
It's a gold Krylon
spray paint
the bricks.
can, and everyone's
Yikes.
shitting bricks.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Because we don't have any money.
Yeah, I want to see a lot of stuff opened up. I want to understand, I think it's probably going to be an entire podcast episode of reading through what gets declassified.
Yeah.
They just announced that Dan Bongino is now going to be the deputy director of the FBI.
Interesting.
So that's a good move.
So, but that's an awesome segue too. So our boy Cash is directing the FBI at this point, and also leading the ATF. And I hope the ATF is just absolutely destroyed. But what do we hope for that? What are you guys thinking there?
I don't like. In my heart, there's a lot of revenge that wants to happen, but I think just really justice.
Yeah.
I think what I want is for him to start eliminating all of the probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the FBI that are bad element now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in, wiping all that out, and then going after all of the open cases that were pushed aside, hidden, put to the bottom of stacked paperwork. And honestly, he needs to go after McCabe. He needs to go after all of the bad players within the DOE or the DOJ and all of the people within the Department of Justice that created lawfare.
Yeah.
Not... they invented things in order to go after people,
right?
Including all the J6ers, including all of the situations with the Trump stuff. Like, they broke the law. They broke the law many, many, many times. And I think it is not absurd or revenge therapy or anything like that to want him to go after crime,
right?
That even if it was happening in-house, I don't care.
This is ATF too, same thing, corruption and all that. There's a guy that was a Navy, currently enlisted in the Navy, had all the paperwork for the guns that he had just taken to go shoot, had all the licenses for the cans, the silencers, all the equipment that he had on it, and the ATF pulled him over and basically confiscated everything, and he got half of what they had confiscated that he had documentation for on everything. And as an enlisted soldier, the military, part of the Navy, and he gets this stuff taken from the ATF and gets half of it back. It's just unreal.
It's criminal.
Yeah.
It's criminal theft. It's bullying. It is wildly unconstitutional.
Yep.
They don't have the authority at all to do anything that they think that they can do. In fact, they don't have the authority to exist.
Yeah.
The ATF does not have the authority to exist. It is not they cannot write law, they cannot enforce law, they do not have the authority to do that. That goes through Congress and Congress alone.
Wasn't it created, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it about prohibition for the ATF?
Probably. I would imagine.
It was later than that. I think it was.
Jamie, you want to fact check that one?
Yeah. And everybody, you've probably heard his name a million times, but this is my son Oliver.
Hello.
They can't hear you.
Oh.
Now they can. There you go.
Hello.
Yeah, so Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was created to enforce laws and regulations against illegal activities involving its namesake and explosives. The ATF's missions to enhance public safety by upholding the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which it routinely walks all over.
Constitution. As it was written, not to be interpreted by.
So that's what I thought. This ATF was established in 1972. So this was more to. This was more to beat up on the war on drugs and stuff.
Gotcha.
Right. And then in 2002, the Homeland Security Act shifted the ATF from the Department of Treasury to the Department of Justice, and that's where they started pretty much writing memo and into this is how we're going to enforce everything we want.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Congress is who makes these things, not the ATF.
Yeah.
ATF just writes memos and then says, this is the new mandate.
Yeah.
And that's all we need. And then they just started enforcing at will, which I think is ridiculous. And it's pretty crippling, I mean, obviously to, small business owners that do Second Amendment related things and stuff like that. But I hope that just gets annihilated.
Yeah,
the FBI, if he's right on about his sort of mission statement, which is first and foremost just to restore the credibility of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and then work from there. Mm-hmm. I think that's best case scenario.
Yep.
So you got to see some hockey. We're going to go back and talk about that for a second. What did you think of your first pro game?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's a giant arena, so any seat in the house is a good seat. Even like the nosebleeds, as far high as you can get, is still
pretty rad.
Yeah.
Great.
We were right on top of the ice. I was saying that if we had been, we were kind of on a corner, had we been more centered,
like two sections,
it would have been like the exact view that you get when you're playing like NHL.
NHL.
Yeah.
Video game.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So,
same perspective.
Yeah.
That's
just
cool.
like if it's actually top down at an angle. It's awesome.
Yeah. It is a big stadium. You're griping about how steep it was, but it is a huge.
It's huge.
That's a lot of people for a hockey game.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of fun.
So, well, cool. So, Cash
Patel.
I'm very excited. He was the one that I didn't think that they were gonna have a hard time getting through.
I thought it was going to be Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
And I mean, she made it through. So I was like, well, if her and RFK get through, then maybe Cash has a chance.
Well, and the reason why I was a little speculative was because of the fact that they kept pushing him back.
Yeah.
And I was like, somebody's holding this up.
Yeah.
And I was afraid that they were going to throw a wrench at him, but I think they tried, and there was just nothing.
Yeah.
Couldn't find anything on the guy, so they couldn't even do a Pete Hegseth on him.
Yeah.
And try to say he's a drunk philanderer. But there was just nothing in his background. So they're like, oh wait, he's the perfect guy for this job.
Yep.
On paper and as a personality. So he's going to come after all my friends, but I don't have anything to gripe about. He didn't give me anything to gripe about. So, I'm really excited. This just happened this last week. He hasn't even gotten the ball rolling, but he's already chopping things even over the weekend.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine think about this. Think about what's happened with Doge. We've had this presidency for a month.
Mm-hmm. Has it been a month total? Or is it still less than a month? Because
I think
it's at a month now.
January 20th is
inauguration.
Today is the 20th.
Today's the 23rd.
23rd.
So we're a month and 3 days.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's already been 6 months
It
worth of
feels like
stuff.
it's been 6 months worth of
Because
stuff.
the shotgun blast of stuff.
Well,
they're
and
doing.
that's why I kind of want to see this stuff doled out where like it's public facing, where
Yeah.
we'll get a chance to independently dig through all these audit findings and be like, holy shit. Because some of the stuff that's come out about things that that existed on funding books today is absurd.
Yeah.
Like wild stuff. Like, I'm going to make this up. There's no truth to what I'm about to say, but it's like
It's within the realm.
the Department of Elephant study for how long their trunks can grow, and there's like $40 million yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the
I don't wanna
there was
pay
a
taxes
list
for
after
it.
list of stuff like that.
I mean,
You're
it's
like,
one thing after the other. It's,
Yeah.
and it's absurd clown show stuff. It is
Yes.
like
Yeah, really bad.
Studying the
think of the-
menstruation of mantises in India, you know, like stuff like that. It doesn't make any like stuff that, and you know,
How is this
that's
bettering mankind?
Well, it's not. And what I want to see is video or pics or it didn't happen.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, dude.
That's where we find the fraud. Is when
Yeah.
we go into those absurd things and
Right.
we go, oh, there's a school for,
Let's go to that
alien
school.
studies in Cambodia
Yeah,
that we've been paying $50 million a year for. Let's go check out this school and see if they've actually been producing what we've been giving them money for.
Yeah.
And when we go there and they go, what school are you talking about?
Dad,
we
where
didn't
did
get
that-
any money.
Where to go?
Right.
Yep.
That's probably 80% of the money that's going out through USAID is all of that absurd stuff that are like, we're paying money for what? We're not
Yeah.
paying money for that stuff.
Yep.
It's made up nonsense. And so I want Elon to put together a travel team of autistic wizards
Yeah.
to
go,
go to each one of those things and find the fraud in person.
Be so up in arms already with how angry they are at him. Uncovering all this stuff, and I can't believe how angry they are that he's uncovering this stuff. They're not angry as they should be, as we are, at all the fraud that we're seeing. Blatant fraud, blatant waste of money. They're angry at him looking. They're angry at him looking. I just want to touch on that because it's a real how.
Well, it's the same. It's the same concept as when a woman suspects that her husband is cheating. And there's a whole bunch of evidence, and he's like, "You're crazy. I'm not cheating. I'm not cheating." So then she decides, "I'm going to go through his phone." Finds the evidence
That he is
cheating, and she goes,
Legitimately
"Look
cheating.
it! I found you're cheating." And he's more mad that she
Went through the
broke
stuff.
the trust of going through his phone. And that he then makes that the point of the argument.
Yeah.
That how can I trust you? You went through my phone.
Yep.
And she goes, yeah. But let's talk about the fact that you were cheating. And
isn't that the point of the conversation? No, it gets shifted over, moving that whole dynamic over towards, no, you were looking at my stuff and you don't trust me.
Yeah. Well, you gave me a lot of reason not
To trust
so
you,
when
yeah.
we went to go look,
And the fact that people would be so blatant to trust the government.
right.
I want to know what's going on. And now we're actually auditing and getting
And
to
they're
see
more mad at
the reality of things.
Yeah.
You're so mad at the reality of what's really there. You're afraid to look it in the eye, so you get angry at the person doing it.
Yeah.
And you're trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater, in my opinion.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
it blows my mind that people don't want the truth. People want to keep their heads buried in the sand. They just want to keep going through. It's
want-
the scene from the Matrix. Ignorance is bliss.
yeah, absolutely. And
Ignorance is bliss.
but it's also the fact that you're attacking daddy. Most of them are in one way or another financially tied to this government.
Oh, yeah.
Government, they need this government in order for them to survive.
Yeah.
And it may not be them directly, but it's their parents or it's their grandparents
Right.
or it's somebody else that, they are all getting some type of assistance, whether it be financial assistance or the fact that half their family works for the government, or that there's some type of tie to it where they have a trust system there.
Yeah.
Because if I don't just blindly give them kind of a
Blank check and support. Blank check and support, and I vote everything on party lines.
absolutely, then I'm
gonna
going
lose
to
all my
betray
Yeah.
that, and I'm going to lose all of the benefits that I get through this.
There are smarter ways to do all the benefits, especially spending the Social Security check going to someone who's 240 years old.
Right.
Or I might be misquoting, but I just know it was over 200 years old.
Yeah.
Where was that going? Trace that, please. Tell me.
Dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of people that they've already found that were collecting Social Security that were 120 years or older.
Yep.
You know, and
Yeah, I listened to that whole list that Trump was rattling off, and a bunch of other podcasts too. So just kind of rehashing that information, but absolutely blew my mind that was just left on the books.
Right.
You're just paying those people a check.
And just the stuff that we're paying over and over again. For instance, the stretching out of retirements because of not fraud. Let's just take fraud off the table entirely. If people are like, "Nah, you fraud."
Yeah.
There is a ton of fraud,
Right.
and I'm not going to take that away. There's a ton of fraud. However, for the sake of the argument, how about just pure inefficiency? How about for the fact that the most comical thing, but also kind of the thing that encapsulates all of what they're finding, is the retirement program in the caves in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
That the elevators don't work, and like they can only do 10,000.
I thought they were joking. I thought it was a Babylon Bee post.
Iron Mountain is built into the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
and
all written. They're reforming it through pen and paper transactions.
And then the cart is the limitation. I just thought all of that was a Babylon Bee post.
Yeah.
Or the Onion had made a joke post.
Yeah.
And my mom sent me the link. She's like, "This is not a joke." It's like, no way. This is fake news. It's real.
It's real.
It's real. We are in the 21st century. We have AI. We have robots. We have self-driving cars. Like, I've got a smartphone in my pocket. I can look up anything I want.
You can only retire 10,000 people per year from government federally paid jobs.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I thought it was per week. But you know what I mean, the limitation was the 10,000.
But it's
because the elevator.
Because the elevator, and that they do everything by hand. It's all manila envelopes and catacombs and caves.
That's great if we have an EMP. We've got paper records of all this, but
so if there's an EMP, the last thing we're going to give a shit about
no, it's the government retirement
is
program.
who retired from the government. Like, that is going to be the furthest thing from.
I think a power grid would probably be more concerning. But
Yeah, but I mean, wild.
Yes.
But that just kind of paints the picture of exactly what Doge is doing. Is finding out, or not even finding out. Letting us know.
It's like, hey guys, we've got this list of stuff here that you probably thought was suspicious. It is.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, here's the proof that it is suspicious.
Yeah.
And that's why one thing I wanted to add to audits department of our Defense Department of Defense.
Yeah.
DOD.
Yeah.
The whole thing. So there's a lot of money there. And I know that there's going to be programs like someone was working on the B-2 bomber. I wouldn't want to tell anybody about that. I'd want that funded properly because that was a hell of a program and that gave us a lot of technology. But some of those, I guarantee you there's a lot that, I don't know. I just want to know. I want to know.
I agree.
There's some stuff that they do have transparency on that's kind of sick. Like 95 cancellations with savings of 115 million, which is the ceiling value of 235 million. So they're still digging through these contracts. But
this is DoD.
This is Doge right now.
Okay.
Including 2 USDA contracts. Line items, just to put it out there. Line items: $265,000 for a food and nutrition service 3-day leadership retreat in Atlanta. And $30,000 for Malaysia study tour of facilitation services. Those are like the codes used for their expenses on some of these things. Wow. Which is wild. Judy says Democrats are like druggies complaining to authorities that their illegal drugs have been stolen. Yep. Yeah. And the demonstrations, Judy, have been fantastic. Like if you're able to catch some of the interpretive dance protests that are going on in D.C. at the moment, and then they wrote a song. Some of the Democrat leaders got together and wrote a song. They were singing in a park and stuff. And
it was beautiful, heart-touching.
Thrashing and gnashing of teeth. Like, we like to shit on Seattle a lot on this podcast.
It's easy though. It's easy.
I promised I'd back off for a little while.
I'm here though, so we got to bring it up again.
But like, they're like torching Teslas now that people have bought, which I think is kind of ridiculous.
Well, I know they were
'cause that's private
blocking-
property, but they're also blocking off
A Tesla
people from
place.
leaving or going into work at the Tesla places in Seattle and shit because, Elon's new
Elon.
Tesla Model SS and
It's like,
all
oh,
these
let's save the world
Nazi
with
overtures
batteries
and stuff,
then,
and it's like
it's complete 180 from how much they supported Teslas and all the Tesla charging stations they have everywhere.
It's absurd.
It's like, oh yeah, let's go green. Oh, the Green New Deal and all that. How well did that work out? Oh yeah, not so well.
Yeah, and what kills me is the shit that they packaged in that.
The pork bill spending that they just stuffed in there is
Yeah.
a stuffed sausage.
That's the Democrat trick that is my favorite. Is like, do you want to kill all the old people? And your answer is no, of course not. I don't
yeah.
want to kill all. You need to sign this bill. And also part of it is billions of dollars to Ukraine and a whole bunch of shit for these
Yeah,
weird studies.
I see,
And we're
yeah.
going to pocket a bunch of that. And you're like, I don't want any of this.
This is not what I
And
asked
you're like,
for.
then you want to kill old people. You're like, what? That's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I literally had arguments with the Dem groups over there before I moved down here that was like, they'd be like, what do you think about tangerines? And I'd be like, I love them. I love tangerines. They're great. I don't get to eat them a whole bunch, but I think tangerines are awesome, and I would probably have one if given. So what you're saying is you fucking hate apples?
Yeah, there's a what?
We weren't even taught. No, there was not even a comparative analysis.
Apples to oranges? Oh my god.
That's the crazy that, to that level, that was
Yes.
absolutely absurd. But
And it's still there, and it's only getting worse.
it
and
is-
It's not I've been born and raised in Tacoma, Washington, so I've got a lot to say about my state. It's not the state that I grew up in. In the last 10 years, I'd say 10 to 15 years, it's changed so much that at some point I'm leaving. I love how beautiful it is there. I am kind of sick of the rain. I'm ready to dry out a little bit, but 3 months out of the year, it's a beautiful place. But the absolute progressive level of chasing down, not chasing anybody. Let's just put it that way. Not enforcing any level of civility. Letting people just get out of jail free all the time. Seattle looks like shit. Instagram. I mean, you fearmonger yourself watching that negative feedback loop. You just watch the same thing over and over. But I've also seen it
all through the pandemic and the lockdowns and stuff and the non-essential employee push and all of the small businesses that they drove out, and then the Black Lives Matter stuff and the Chop Chat shit and all of the crime that people get booked into the jailhouse and
Right
immediately
out.
sent off.
Yeah.
All of the churn of getting these people back on the streets and not actually upholding any part of the law was your AG, who's now your governor.
Yes.
So in
that I
my
didn't
eyes,
vote for. It's like I keep feeling
Bob
like,
Ferguson is infinitely worse than Jay Inslee
Yes.
for Washington, in my opinion.
and
That's scary.
It's the only state in the last election that went further blue.
And for me, it's I keep voting against this stuff, and I feel like a lot of the people that I know that are in a line with me have already left the state.
Yeah.
They're just so fed up with it. But I feel like my vote goes nowhere. I just get outvoted
10
by
years ago,
Seattle.
I would have widely been considered a conservative moderate.
Right.
I'm like, hey man, I'm probably okay with some oversight and some regulatory bodies looking at some stuff so that the positive feedback loops don't completely spiral out of control.
Yeah, right.
But these days, it's like everything has shifted so far that where I was kind of right of center is now
Because the
making me
Overton
sound
window, as Glenn Beck
completely
calls it,
radicalized.
the Overton window has shifted so far, specifically after COVID, but even before that, it was starting to move to the point where I haven't changed anything. There's a Goldfinger song, "You Have Changed," because I still feel the same. I still remain the same. I have not changed anything that I've believed in since I was 18.
Goldfinger, a beacon of Republican values.
Yes. I'm sure they're stoked we're talking about
Maybe
it.
I just spit out his beer. What?
Are you kidding me? How dare you?
Happens to be a viewer.
Yeah.
That's that's our new theme song. They'd be so pissed.
Pay some royalties for that one. The stuff has changed so much up there. The
It really has.
homeless. I've never seen. There's always been a few, especially downtown Tacoma. It's always been a very blue collar, and then a lot of the industry leaves, and then you've got more homeless. It's always been a rough area, specifically certain areas. But now it's rampant across almost the whole city now. Like the small pockets where it used to be are really bad, and they'll vacate all of them from one area, and they just discover a new area to pop up in.
Judy says, I wonder if Bob Ferguson was paying attention to the conversation with Trump and the Maine governor. Not only do I think he was, but I think he even press conferenced to double down on that, to say how hard they were going to fight legally anything that Trump and his administration would do.
Yeah.
And then, like minutes later, the very first time since the Los Angeles fires that all of their local politicians got to sit down and actually convene for an official session, the only agenda item was to talk about how they were also going to fight the Trump administration legally on anything that he might do for investigations, funding cuts, or anything that he's changing to their agenda. Meanwhile, like, the embers are still hot in California state, so I'm sure the constituents there are furious. Like, I know some people reached out on social media and they were like, this is a clown show.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you want to talk about? And the Palisades are burnt down and Malibu's gone, and like, are you kidding?
You don't want to talk about how we.
I'm sure Bob Ferguson was paying deep attention to that.
hydrants.
There's some fire hydrants that work, just bare minimum. Dude. Bare minimum.
But I think Bob Ferguson was paying deep attention to that just so he could use whatever as, oh, that's just some misogynistic, deep right-wing posturing, and we're going to stand against the man, join with me. And the problem is there's enough of the voting populace in particularly King County, but...
King County, I'd say just Seattle. King County, Seattle, it's really just Seattle. If you were to break it all down.
There's that populous straight blue line with those votes. Everywhere else in the state, everywhere. Like, outside of the city, all over central Washington, all over eastern Washington. Is a completely different viewpoint.
I think Judy was the one who made the point about voter integrity.
Yeah.
And I think that would play a huge role in Washington.
A friend of mine said that the easiest way to help the voter turnout for Washington elections is get rid of the mail-in votes because
100%.
of the
absolutely
homeless population that we have.
Yeah.
And
or
take it down there, and this is a guy that I know, I won't mention names or anything, but he knows enough about the local government and the government as a whole in Washington State that he hit the nail on the head with that. It's just get rid of voter ID. Well, I mean, implement the voter ID that we used to have.
Yeah, implement voter ID, and then
the mail-in voting, mail-in ballots. That's what I meant.
Mail-in ballots have got to go. And voting ID, you would literally, I guarantee you, in one voting cycle, Washington would go a lot redder than people realize.
Yes.
I think that there is a lot of fraud going on.
Well, they found like some voters in the last cycle that were like 197 years old or something like that, and it's like, oh, okay.
Standard practice.
There's a lot of dead Democrats.
They still draw on Social Security? Just checking.
Probably.
Still right into their fund.
Yeah.
To the next cycle, man. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle up there, and it's the entire West Coast Coalition, man.
Yeah.
It's no different than California does, and then Portland and Seattle follow suit.
No, I'm not going to dig the horse up and beat on it some more, but at the end of the day, it's
I just haven't been here to beat on it with you, that's all.
No, and please do. I just mean, like, for the coalition part of it, though, it's like, how did California in under 2 generations go from the land of opportunity with perpetual sunsets and striking, you know, the American dream to being the most welfare-ridden, upside-down, backwards-ass hellscape that it's become, you know?
I asked Judy if she wanted to go back to San Diego, where she grew up from, as a vacation. She's like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I want to remember it how it was when I was there in the 70s. So, like,
I talk about it all the time. I grew up in California my whole life, and I literally can count on less than one hand how many funerals I'll go back to that state for. Yeah. Because that's the only thing that's bringing me back is a funeral.
Well, dude, I mean, after
family funeral.
After Paradise burned down, I'm like, I have 0 reasons to go to California.
Right.
None. Yeah.
Sad, man.
And it sucks because if it was like different, and they're like, throw a dart at anywhere you'd want to live and just exist and live your life out, it'd be like La Jolla. You know what I mean? It'd be like
Pacific Beach or Ocean Beach for me, man.
Yeah.
Or Santa
California
Cruz. I fucking love Santa Cruz.
If California had the politics of Idaho, Texas, Florida, anything like that, man, in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And if the cost of living was
if all things were equal and it wasn't a clown show, then absolutely.
But yeah, you're
water in the fire hydrants.
Water in the fire hydrants.
Just saying,
just a little bit.
Yeah. Minimum requirements.
1 or 2 drops.
Okay.
But I would be probably close to the San Diego region myself.
Yeah.
That's like I would move my family there.
Some interesting military buildings in Coronado.
There really is.
Oh, yes, there is. Coronado.
Maybe for another day.
We'll save that.
What's going on there with the U.S. Navy, but
What they were thinking with what they were building.
It's just oddly
Who
shaped.
they were building it for.
I don't know who in the architecture department for the state was like, yeah, it looks great.
They built that specifically for Werner von Braun.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, there was.
Anyway, what else?
What
else we
Ready to
got?
go into the movies, or just save that for very end?
We can get into that. Is there more federal stuff? Like, it's been pretty quiet on Tulsi Gabbard's front.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for that hammer to drop.
Me too. I want to know what gets unearthed from a department of what is it? She's the National Security Administrator.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then RFK Jr. hasn't really gotten rolling yet, but he's about to. But I mean, like I said, we're a month in.
Yeah.
And these people are just getting their feet underneath them, probably just getting to know the staff that they've picked.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that in the next 2 months, it's already been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
But the next 2 months, because I feel like we're in a weird little lull right now.
Of more stuff to happen.
More stuff to happen.
Absolutely.
Because it's been so intense for an entire month, like day after day.
They got to give us let us come up for air so we can get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, they are literally keeping the entire leftist sphere from absolutely, like, popping. Because that's what's going to happen. There's going to have to be a pressure release.
50501 protesting. Like, I know a lot of people are. I follow a lot of friends that are part of that. And I mean, all for you protesting everything, but I'm wondering where the money's coming from. And is this a Soros-backed thing?
It would have to
You
be.
know, where does the money come from?
But I'm just
Who's
saying
funding all this?
that if they kept at the pace that they're doing, like every day, bam, 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 they're going to literally pop.
Yeah.
And there's just I think they have to kind of punch, and then reel back a little bit, let them have their little freak out temper tantrum, but it is the pressure release valve, and then they go back in, pop, and then they pull back a little bit while they freak out and settle down. I think it's a really solid tactic.
I think the pulling back part, they need to really turn their attention to the states and be like, you guys need to figure this out if you want programs like these federally funded existing programs to continue on your
Should be
level.
state level.
You find the
Should be
funds
state
for it.
level.
You find the head count for it. You find the plans for it.
X amount in California, Washington State, I don't know about Oregon, for all these homeless people that they just let in. And now they're short $89 billion, I think, in Washington State. I forgot what the shortfall is.
Oh yeah, no,
Our budget
because they're
is-
proposing new taxes to cover an even bigger state debt that they weren't even aware of until the last report came out. Yeah, you're right. It is something absurd.
It's absurd
Yeah.
how far off we are. And they want to raise the gas was $4 something a gallon when I left. So
It is now that here again.
yeah, right. It's going up all over across the board. But just seeing stuff go up through the roof again, like things get so expensive so quick.
I think we've got 2 Idaho residents probably watching currently.
Yeah.
Adulting sucks.
Gas. You think about your gas bill and eggs.
Cynthia
They have to worry about a
and
car.
Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, is the gas still under $3 a gallon in Idaho?
No way, it's still under 3.
I think it's still under 3.
I mean, we are still covered in snow, so.
What was it, 340 here? Angel, is it 340 here?
I just filled up at 411.
411 at this. Oh, wow. Okay. That was premium, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the fuel prices in Idaho? Prices in Idaho.
Wait, no, I thought one of the gas stations near our house was past $3.
Up past.
Well, it's been under 3 for a while, so
Yeah.
if it's over 3 now.
It says it's just giving averages from late January between 291 and 310.
Yeah.
Current average is 3.196 to 3.4.
Back to the budget issue is like they spent all this money on the homeless people for what? And then there's a budget shortfall. It's like, okay, so you created a problem. Now you've got a homeless industrial complex that you're churning money around with. And the spending, I think there was a statistic that it's over 1,000% increase in the last 10 years on the amount of spending on homeless people as it's gone up through the roof.
Well, that's the root of the problem,
percentage.
right? Like, we meet these people that are interviewed that are helping with the homeless population, and they're making like nearly $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's motivating you to fix the problem? Because
you
that
want to work
takes your
yourself out
job
of a
away.
job is what
Right.
you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
The end result should be working yourself out of a job and having that to celebrate, like, I ended homelessness.
Right.
No, they're not doing that. It's just like the Skid Row. Joe Rogan had someone on the podcast. They were talking about how it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
I saw
in
that, yeah.
LA.
And that was a couple of years ago.
That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, I hate that the money that they were trying to petition for and ended up getting years ago in Seattle was for all those wet houses and needle exchange programs and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I don't support this at all. And they're like, well, why don't you support that at all? I'm like, well, if that's going to fix the problem, why don't we open up a drunk driving lane?
Yeah.
Like, let's just have a drunk driving lane on the freeway, and that'll solve that problem too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, no.
Well, that's absurd. I'm like, well, then so
just stop
is
doing the
this.
needles
It's
thing.
It's
Yeah.
the exact same thing. So
You're enabling.
Yeah.
You're enabling.
and they did,
Yeah. And
it increased the
look at what happens.
the drug trade by a lot.
You see what happens, Larry? To quote Big Lebowski. You see what happens, Larry? That's Seattle, isn't it?
Don't Jimmy me, Jules. I know how good my fucking coffee is, all right?
That's a good one, too.
Oh man, what else we got? We got any local stuff? Any fun local stuff for you?
We've had an interesting couple of weeks. Yesterday we had a town hall meeting, and once a month when the Idaho legislature is in session, they come together locally to kind of fill in a town hall situation what they're doing.
Sure.
Typically, it's sponsored by the local
Pfizer?
the local Republican Central Committee, the
Sure.
KCRCC in this instance, and then they'll have it at different places. And sometimes the church hosts it, sometimes the school does. And this time it was like sponsored by them. It was being hosted at I think Coeur d'Alene High School, if I'm not mistaken. And
Little CHS.
Go Vikings.
So apparently word got out, and some of the local kind of leftist rabble-rousers.
I was gonna say wildlife, but
But
The internet's forever.
yeah. Rabble-rousers were there. They came and showed up. Yeah.
I mean, with how the rest of the story is gonna go, I feel like I'm pretty.
Draw you up on charges on the Wayback Machine, dude.
There is biting involved, actually.
So I'm not too far from the truth.
But
Jeez.
yeah, so
Lay it on me.
The videos were hilarious.
There's
I
a
saw
link-
them at the hockey game. He's like,
yeah.
like, holy shit. Go on.
Well, and I'm not really happy with either side, because normally, like, I would be 100% on board with the particular people who were there getting drug out, because they have a history of pulling fire alarms at the college, stealing clipboards of petitions. It's this one lady in particular who tends to be the most upfront. There's a group of them that are all like this, but she's the one who kind of throws caution to the wind when she is riled up.
The deepest of rabble is roused.
Yes. Yeah. She has a very deep rabbling well
Sure.
that she draws from. And she showed up with a group, and there's probably about 15 of them, 20 of them.
Wow.
Out of the 400 people that showed up, right? And they won't let these guys speak. They keep talking over the MC, who's the guy who's, letting all the... And there's 10, 15 legislators and senators all sitting on the stage. And because they don't like what's been going on down in Boise this year, because our legislature has been kicking ass this year and, like, putting a stop to everything.
Sure.
They're doging out everything, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're like, nope, no more drag shows for kids. No more, boys in girls'
The
bathrooms.
wild, overt
Just-
pieces of DEI are starting to
just-
get uprooted. Yeah.
They're just wiping all of it away.
Stuff that should have never existed.
Right.
It's just a waste of time because you have to go back through and undo everything.
And they create law to codify it, and that's the problem, is that you didn't think you would have to do this kind of stuff, so now they've got to go back.
Undo everything.
Last session, we had to put in and Heather Scott's getting made fun of about this, but it needed to be done. She had to put in a law for cannibalism.
What?
Because they were going to start trying to implement in meat processing an allowable amount of human meat within. So she got a word on this, and she goes, okay, we're just going to have to write a law before this even becomes a thing. And so, and now they're making fun of her. Oh, the cannibal law from, and she's like, this. I didn't want to have to do that.
Is this one of those moments where you shake the camera and go, Soylent Green is people! It's people!
But yeah, so stuff like that. But they've been doing a really good job this year too.
That's gross.
Yeah. So then
Go to that level. Oh my God.
every state should really adopt what she did, because it's going to happen in everywhere.
Wow.
So
Yikes.
yeah, if you live in another state, contact your legislature, find out if your meat processing plants have allowable amounts of human consumption in their meat processing. So
That's
Cannibalism didn't hit the bingo card when I got up this morning, but here we are.
Yeah,
My
I
printer's
on
still
the
on my printer.
2025 bingo card for me.
So Rabble is beginning to get
yeah, so
roused.
they're 30 minutes in and they start freaking out. Now the MC, typically he's the guy that they have for these things, and his name's Ed. And Ed tends to be a level head. He's a level Ed.
Level head.
And this time, I don't know what got into him, but he popped his cork and just starts freaking out on them. They're asking for it, right? But there's better ways to handle this that make you look good and them look like the idiots that they are. And he made himself look like a bigger idiot than them and just started going off. And
Not a good look.
started really pushing them to escalate it. He was totally escalating the situation.
Yikes.
Then our sheriff comes in and tells the lady, and he's not in uniform, tells the lady, you need to go. You've been asked to leave. It's time to go. She refuses. So then some unmarked security with just earpieces in, with no markings of security or anything, comes in and just starts dragging her out, kicking and screaming, almost pulling her clothes off. She bites one of them. And
Dude, I would pay-per-view this event next town hall.
dude,
give me a link if they're streaming it. I gotta
so
know.
now you've got both sides
live
of this. She gets drug out in the lobby.
There's
no one
videos
knows
of this on the internet.
Oh, I'll show you later. Yeah, it's great. It got streamed by like 10 different people.
Yeah.
from different
Everyone's like,
Every
I can't
angle.
believe this shit is happening right
Yeah,
now.
and everyone's freaking out and screaming, and everyone's filming, and she's getting drug out, cussing at everybody, and she's
See if we
gone
can get some
full-
DraftKings odds
full
on
flop. And this lady is on my top of the
she make
list
a triumphant
of people
return?
within the county that I just don't like.
Yep.
Right. So part of me is like, good, she's getting what she deserves, but another part of me is like, this is going poorly.
Be so funny at the
For the
town hall. She
optics
just
for
comes
our
crawling
side.
from under the apron. Oh my God! It's the lady from last time with the steel chair. Anyway,
But then like drug her out of the lobby, and then the cops dealt with her over there.
Yeah.
But now the war of the media has hit, and it's 500 comments per post from
the suppression of free speech.
the suppression of free speech.
Yeah,
She should sue the KCRCC. She should sue Sheriff Norris.
Yeah.
She should sue the security company. She should sue the school. She should sue everybody for suppressing her free speech and assaulting her and all these things, even though she was asked repeatedly to leave. But there's gray areas there. None of these guys were identified. They weren't wearing uniform. They should have been wearing uniform.
Yep.
Ed should not have been doing what he was doing. I'm pissed at the whole thing.
But then
and
she bit one of the officers.
yeah,
right?
but she didn't know it was an officer because he wasn't marked.
I mean,
She bit a
we
strange
just
man.
discussed cannibalism is off limits in
I know.
the state, and
They
here we are
passed the
biting
bill
people
already, right?
at the town hall.
Yeah, in front of Heather Scott.
I mean,
Oh man,
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a trip.
but so we don't know what's going to happen. But I think that there's going to be this is going to drag out. The lady who got the biter, she actually has run multiple times for state legislature against Tony Vishnevsky. Now,
I don't think Chompers is winning if she runs again.
no, that's the thing. She's gonna.
Yeah.
And the reason why is they're martyring her. She's a hero now, a free speech hero.
She needs good branding, like those wind-up teeth.
Yeah, right.
Something.
Chomp, chomp, chomp. I'll take a bite out of corn.
Start making ears for her.
Yeah, right. But that's the thing is they've canonized her almost. Like she has now become this folk hero in town.
I'm all for free speech, but it sounds like a lot went wrong.
Yeah, a lot went wrong.
But what a gorgeous precedent to set. Because now people more extreme than Chompers, the rabble-rousing lady, are going to show up en masse every single time this continues to happen in a public forum.
Yep. To get their 15 minutes of being drugged out.
100%
minutes of fame and be recorded.
Yep.
And go on the internet.
And then every single one of these meetings with a dominantly Republican legislature, one would imagine, is going to be painted as though it's, being
suppressing free speech.
being supported and like security enforced by the Gestapo kind of thing.
That's exactly the word that they're using already.
Oh yeah, as they sit from on high in their Invisithrones,
The
throwing
fascism,
lightning bolts at
Corporations
their
being all
100%.
corporation-y.
Yeah, the fascism is deep, and their Gestapo are the ones.
She knows what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
Which the FBI, in my opinion, was already the Gestapo with how they've been running.
Yeah, absolutely. But now it's the local Idaho Republican legislators that are. Yeah, so that's been going on. And that happened yesterday, so I get to come home to that. My wife is always hip deep and all that kind of stuff.
She wasn't there, though,
She
was
wasn't
she?
there. She was actually working at the shop, fortunately. And I asked her today. I was like, "Did you have some FOMO on that? A little fear of missing out?" Because normally she's frothing at the mouth to be a part of those things and be like in the mix. And she's like, "No, I couldn't care less. I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like there was enough people there with recording it that I didn't need to be there. And also like,
You can get a transcript of that event, though, can't you?
oh yeah, yeah. So
Be worth that.
Teleprompter lady having to type all of that?
Oh my God, the stenographer or whatever,
meeting.
like ducking chairs flying overhead and stuff. That'd be sick.
but yeah,
I think it's streamed as well, right?
Yeah.
Like it's publicly recorded. Cool.
yeah.
Wow.
Next Friday night at Town Hall, 7 o'clock sharp.
Well, the next one's at
Watch the legislators take on Chompers, the lady.
the next one is actually next month
Okay.
at our church.
Oh, no.
See what happens when God gets involved. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Yeah, but it's the KCRCC isn't sponsoring it, and it is in a private location, not a public location. So we do get to say who gets.
You
to
guys
come in
need
and out of
like
that.
entrance music when each speaker comes out.
And we do
At this
actually
point.
have private security for that place
Oh man.
Yeah, okay.
at all times.
This
So-
has that has a
labeled-
that
Are they
has a
labeled
recipe to be
security?
yeah, yes, they are actually.
They all have
guard the
badges
people
as well.
involved because that has a recipe to be very explosive.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Name
citizen on
badges,
citizen
not like-
stuff now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that we've got a full security crew that train pretty frequently.
They have handcuffs. I've seen them.
But they're private people.
They're very sturdy.
Yeah.
So
Just going to throw that out there. It's going to be a civil lawsuit nightmare if people start wanting to up the ante for interruption. So,
well, they won't even be allowed in. We've got to list the people that we're not just letting them in, and they don't have a choice.
man, well,
It's also
you and
it's
your
a private
private
establishment.
events.
You can't- You're not allowed
You
it.
and your private events suppressing people, not letting them in, man. Fuck you.
All right.
You're going to be on the news for everything.
Perfect.
You are the problem. No, but you know where I'm going with that. Like,
Yeah.
that's what they're going to say.
Oh yeah.
Crazy.
But
Wow.
we have a meeting tomorrow. I'll be in teleconference with them about it.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow.
Our town halls are not that fun.
Ours are getting more and more wild.
It's absurd.
Yeah. So, and it's definitely kind of the the hissing fit of a lost election in an area where they thought that they were gaining ground because they spend time in bubbles. They don't spend time outside of their social circles.
Yeah, they're listening to other people, seeing the other side. I have a lot of friends that are like, you should remove me if you believe in this and that. And it's like, I'm actually keeping you because I want to know what you're talking about. And I want to know what you're for and what you're against. So I'm in the loop.
Half my social media groups are exactly that.
Right.
Sometimes I'll go, I haven't talked to you in like 6 years, and you're saying this kind of stuff. You're gone.
Yeah.
Same with you. You're gone, and I'll block them and get rid of them because it's just too much of that.
Yeah.
But I keep probably a good portion of them in my feed just so I can always have my ear to the ground about what they're feeling.
Right.
And I don't know if they know how I lean, but
I know a lot of people don't know where I'm at when I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't mind being an enigma because I get to just kind of weave through and hear what everybody has to say.
Yeah.
And then when we go to the polls, I do my thing. And that's how it used to be.
yeah.
You go have a beer with the guy on Monday, and then Tuesday you're at the polls, and you go back and have another beer with them on
Doing
Wednesday.
anything like dancing?
Dance in the poll.
Okay, fair enough.
You get any tips these days?
Yeah, so inflation.
We watched a movie. We do some pop culture stuff here on this podcast. It's not always news and opinions, although we think it's important and we love all of you. We watched The Gorge. It was on Apple TV. All four of us watched The Gorge.
It was
great.
phenomenal.
It was super great. I thought from the preview it was going to be a really cool original concept.
Yeah.
Yep.
It kind of led you to believe that it might go down a road that
I'll be honest.
it kind of didn't. But ultimately,
I hadn't heard about it until you guys sat there and told me about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you talking about?
Watch the preview.
Yeah. And so I was like, what? Well, and it came out on February 14th.
Yeah.
On Apple
Anna
TV.
Taylor-Joy and
Miles Teller.
Miles Teller.
Yeah.
And Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
And Sigourney
I
Weaver.
was not expecting that.
Yeah. Man, was that good.
It was super good.
It was not only intense, it was a perfect 3-act movie, but it was fun. It was fun. That I think is what really, to me, encapsulates a good movie. I'll let a lot of things go if the movie, I have fun watching it.
Entertainment, and it was entertaining. It did what it was supposed to do.
Judy Larson. The Gorge was amazing. All caps. Watched it twice. We absolutely loved it, and I am a wiener when it comes to scary movies. I don't like them.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, if we're gonna have like
scary movie.
a demon crawling out of somebody's chest and then like eating faces, I'm probably not. I'll just go do something else.
I'll watch another
You guys
movie.
enjoy the movie.
Right.
It wasn't that, which was awesome, but it was intense enough to be like engaging and keep the story going.
Yeah.
We had hypotheses that were popping up during.
Hypothesize?
That's it.
Yeah.
We were
All the above.
hypothesizing. It's a Worcestershire sauce, whatever.
Worcestershire.
That were coming up as it was going, and we were kind of right.
Yeah.
Where like we threw some corkball shit out there that started happening, but ultimately it wasn't that. It was intense enough to stay engaging, and it was really cool. And the cinematography was really good.
excellent.
That was one of my favorite things.
They had
about
a
the
couple
movie.
of great shot Gordo moments in there that were like, damn, that was dope. I had a blast.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautifully shot. Really creative framework as far as how they were doing different shots.
Yeah.
Because I mean, without giving away too much, it's a story of two people on either side of a gorge protecting
It
something.
had action, suspense, sci-fi creatures, and a love story. All the things I like. We were ninjas and more explosions short of a perfect film.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That was everything I was expecting it to be and more. And what I loved was that the ride took me. It took a couple turns that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
I was stoked that it wasn't predictable.
Yeah.
It wasn't just we're gonna have Act 1, 2, and 3, and it's gonna be this, this, and this. No, it throws you for a loop. It keeps you on your toes.
It was almost 3 different movies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, for a movie that has not one but 2, but especially 1, but even 2, of kind of actors that I'm kind of sick of because Anna Taylor-Joy isn't everything.
Yeah.
I was
Everything.
mentioning that she must have a really good agent.
Yeah,
'cause she's
and
been in everything.
Miles
lately.
Teller's in a lot of stuff these days too.
Yeah.
Not quite a Nicholas Hoult or a Timothy Chalamet,
Chalamet,
who are
yeah.
in everything, but he's up there in like the top 5 people that they go to for movies these days.
Right.
Those two people, I'm not interested in seeing them in movies anymore. I've seen you. I know what you can do. Give us somebody else for a little bit.
I want the Tom Cruise. Give me the Tom Cruise.
But I
Mission
it didn't
Impossible
matter.
28.
No, it was good.
They were so good, and both of them were so good in this, and they were you actually cared about them as character, the character development of each one of them.
We're just going to say that you cared about each character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
You were invested.
yeah
invested
and they did a
in the
really good
outcome.
job of trimming the fat, so you're not like going off into little side trails of who they were as a person. They did a really good job of telling you who they were to the point where you're like, oh, that's cool. I care about this person. All right, well, now we know who this person is. And then developing them together over the course of the first act was an incredible feat of writing. They did a really good job of
Did a good job on an original concept.
Especially when they didn't communicate almost the entire time. It was just off of like little pages, and they shared almost no words for the first half of the movie, and they still did it phenomenally.
Yeah.
Well
It was
put.
great.
Yeah.
It was good.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, but yeah, even the special effects were great. There was a lot of fun, loud action scenes, and some unbelievable stuff. But you can
You just roll with it.
you roll with it because it's no different than like Boy Kills World or anything like that, where it's just there's a little bit of absurdity to kind of get you through. I mean, John Wick is basically built off that concept. So.
You have to suspend a lot of disbelief in stuff when you get into the.
You just got to go for the ride, man.
Yeah.
Buckle up and go for the ride.
It was good for that, for sure.
Yep.
Also, Judy, and they know this, but before we all had Sigourney Weaver, we had to weave Sigourney's by hand. So just wanted to let you know that. Yeah. So how many megs?
I think last night I gave it 8.5 with a toothy end.
Toothy end? Okay.
Megs, I'm familiar with the rating system.
Yeah.
From being a long-time listener of the podcast, I would say 8.5 for sure is the rewatchability. I can't wait to watch the second time. And I also know they set it up pretty well, as we've discussed, that there's potential for a sequel.
There is.
With how they left it. They could do a sequel out of that.
Yeah.
Which half of the meg? The toothy end or the back half of the meg?
Toothy end.
Toothy end of the meg.
Yes.
2 8.5s.
I don't know what the meg looks like, but I'm just going to give it a 9 just to flatten it out.
There we go.
9 megs. I am also giving it an 8.5, toothy end of the meg.
Cool.
So this is pretty
unanimous. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know that I would like this. I thought the concept was sick. I thought the trailer was cool, and that's why I started sharing it.
You mentioned it to me, and Judy had already mentioned it to me. So it was 2 people that mentioned, hey, I want to see this movie. And I was like, okay, well, that's 2 people talking about it. If there's buzz about something, I got to check it out.
Well, and I'm glad it worked out, because I don't have Apple TV, and I was watching along going, oh, is this going to come out to theaters? And then it was like, oh, no, it's on Apple. I don't have that.
Yeah.
Oh, Judy Larson says, I want Miles Teller for the next James Bond movie.
Depending on how it goes with
Stay tuned for our next podcast, because I'm going to rip James Bond apart. But
Do it.
I like where your head's at on that.
I agreed.
One of the things that I did not, that I think I would have given it an extra half a meg, the title. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think the gorge was
Fell
a little lazy. Fell a little flat. It's not something that
Felt like it could have been a suspense movie or a Dave Matthews Band tour.
Right.
We have no idea. Yeah.
Actually, when I brought it up to Caps the other day, like we
Gorge
watched
of George.
and he goes, "Is that like where Dave Matthews plays all the time?"
Yeah.
And that's
Perfect.
I've actually never been to the Gorge somehow.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, well, we'll change that.
I've seen like 3 concerts in my life. They've all been in Seattle.
But yeah, the name is too generic for the creativity of that movie.
Yeah.
I think that they could have put a little bit of effort into just calling it something other than The Gorge, because I don't think it's going to pull the audience in
No.
the way that
It was the recommendation from 2 people that got me to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't the name.
If I was skimming through stuff and I just saw Anna Taylor-Joy, Anna Taylor-Joy,
and Miller's Taylor, whatever.
Miles Teller.
Miles Teller. That's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
With the three.
And then just the title, The Gorge. I would
keep scrolling.
I would keep scrolling. I wouldn't watch it. So yeah, it's kind of a letdown of a title, but outside of that, like if people actually invest the time to see it, I think it'd be better.
I almost proposed the idea. What if they named it like The Two Towers or something? And I just like.
Yeah,
That's it's never been done before. No. We'll have to call in on that.
Yeah.
All right, so it's back. We have missed this for a little while, and it's tradition around here when we do live shows. When we read the Gospel by Gen Z, it is typically the guest that gets to read it. And so I am super excited that I'm going to make Gen Z read Gen Z Bible today, stories. Right. Chapter 36.
This is the first time.
This is the first time ever.
Somebody from
this is exciting.
Gen Z is actually going to be reading
Where
it his own
Where
language.
are we within?
We're one chapter per pod episode. That's it. It's one page. Typically.
Where are we within the parameters of the normal Bible?
We never got there from cover to cover with this book. I'd like to tell you that somewhere systematically it's in there, but they really jump around as far as the time.
I would agree. The pages, the chapters have been jumpy.
Let me see.
I want to know what part of the Bible it is, so I'm not just speaking gibberish to everyone.
It's after
myself.
it's after
this is
the first parable.
When
I mean, we're
I
New
think
Testament
Jesus
Oh, you're New Testament.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
casts the demons out.
Of the lady?
No, and into the pigs, and then sends them, and we are legion, and they go running off the cliff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So here it is.
Let's see it.
I cannot wait. I'm excited for
Buckle
this.
up, everybody.
Here we go.
that's actually what our church in Idaho was today. Was we talked about demons?
Serendipity.
We just can't get out of 2 Corinthians, huh?
Yeah.
Nope. We just have to
Stuck with it.
All right. There was a man who let all his intrusive thoughts win and let a spooky, scary skeleton live rent-free within him. He was so cringe and always threw hands at himself. For every day he woke up and chose violence. One day Jesus pulled up and told the risless spirit to yeet from the man. Oh my God. The unclean spirit said, "Why are you trying to do me dirty, son of the top G? Let me cook." 2 exclamation points, angry face, smoke out of nose emoji. Holy Bro said, "What's your name?" Holy Bro said, "My name is the Goated Ones."
Wait, there was the what?
The Goated Ones. For we are Sigma. The Sigmas saw some swine nearby and said, "Don't yeet us to Hades, but rather into these swine." Jesus said, "Bet," but the swine didn't match their Sigma energy and yeeted down a cliff into the sea. Some witnesses started live streaming to the nearby towns and told the chat all that had happened. When they saw that Jesus had done all this and that the cringe bro now had chill, they were stressing hard and they demanded Jesus yeet from the place and skirt out of town.
There it is. That's chapter 36, Legion. Well done. Appreciate that.
Well done.
Fantastic. We'll get back with multiplying loaves for chapter 37. Can't wait to talk about that. Some miracle work going on. We're going to be here. You'll probably be with us maybe next week. We'll see. Depends how things settle when you get back, because you're going to be here for a little bit. We've got some
I'll be
stuff
here
to do.
Tuesday.
I'm excited.
Yep.
Why don't you guys, because we fly back Tuesday, and we're going to talk about this.
Let's do a spin-off show.
Do a spin-off show for Tuesday night.
Yeah.
The two of you guys.
Cool.
Because we're going to be flying back and getting in pretty late.
Gotcha.
So,
I'm gonna be playing a hockey game that night. I don't care. Wait, how late are we getting in?
I don't know yet.
Oh.
But yeah, we'll
see
talk
how that
about
goes.
that off air.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see what we'll do, but yeah, I think that way we don't skip a week. That you guys do, and then
I got some local stuff I can bring up for sure.
Oh, yeah.
There's a ton.
I got a lot of
house
James
bills.
Bond stuff to talk about too. So, Junior, if you're interested in returning, I would love to converse with you even more
you're
about
not
that.
down for a black lesbian to be James Bond?
Really?
Well, it was Amazon, not Disney, right? That purchased.
I mean, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Amazon in all its splendor and glory.
Yeah, they did real good with Lord of the Rings.
They did a great thing with Lord of the Rings. Citadel was kicking ass and taking names. So more to come there. Yeah, this was super fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I think it sounds like Paul and I are going to be back special guesting and doing a solo thing. It's going to be super fun. As always, it's a pleasure to see you. I'm glad you joined along. Thank you for reading from the gospel. I think.
Yeah. Got it straight from the mouth of Gen Z.
Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I know you guys got some stuff to
We're gonna go ride a
do
roller
and go
coaster.
hang out. Yeah. So,
Quite literally.
Yeah.
adieu, friends. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We appreciate it. You can follow us on socials. You can come check us in. Special live stuff on YouTube, or check us out, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the usual stuff. Drop us a review, even if it's a one-word hooray, or thanks a lot, or this helped, or huzzah.
Yeah.
Would be very thematic for this household, especially this week. But it helps a bunch, and we appreciate it. So thanks a whole bunch.